This week on RSBANDB Update, we return to the wilderness to discuss the newest quest, Daughter of Chaos. From new stories and characters to new combat systems, we ask, can this quest stand on its own? Then, more than 300 million RS accounts have been created, and we dip into the celebrations. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 895, recorded Thursday, August 11th, 2022. Chaos Curated. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Tanis is still under the weather this week. He should be back next week, but it is Quest Week here, so we have a panel that is 100% capable and very strong at going to be able talking about Daughter of Chaos. Sirion is back this week.
Hey.
And also joining us, since it is Quest Week, is Questscaping. Welcome back.
Hello.
I think last time we heard from you was when we attempted to have a bit of a discussion on the Aftermath stuff after ED4, right?
Ah, yes, yeah. I get dragged out anytime there's quests.
Oh god, don't say dragged out. That makes it sound like you don't want to be here.
I get taken out of Shane's basement.
Oh god. We're going an interesting direction with this, aren't we?
That's where he keeps all the RSBANBs, though. Don't you agree, Sirion?
Yeah, I mean, I was dragged out last week when Tanis didn't show up, so...
Exactly, he made his escape. But the rescue party is on its way.
You guys are making it sound like you guys, like all the hosts don't want to be here, and that's worrying to me.
Don't worry, we love you, Shane.
I know.
Yep, we definitely love you.
Good. But in any case, if you want to follow along, we have full show notes at update.show. You can join our friends chat. BitsBytes, I'm Shane12088 in game. Sirion is at Sirion. Questscaping is Questscaping. So last week we discussed the Wilderness Reborn, and we're going to have a bunch of patch notes about that after the fact. But what we want to cover here mainly this week is the Daughter of Chaos quest, the first quest in the new post-Elder God War, Zamarakian Civil War, Legacy of Zamarak chapter line. And it's interesting because we go back with this. We can go back to the very beginning about Moya and the whole Zamarakian influence. And she was Zamarak's ambassador, of course, during the start of the Sixth Age. We know Moya is the daughter of Lucian, who goes even way back to the Fifth Age storyline. So we're dealing with an interesting lineage here and an interesting evolution of characters for this quest, and it's very, very clearly an introductory quest. Or I don't know. Would you guys call this introductory? Because I don't think they pegged it as introductory. I think they pegged it as a medium quest, didn't they?
It's a reset. It's one of those in that it has no previous quest requirements, but it does at least have some skill requirements, so likely it wouldn't be Baby's first quest.
No. I mean, 40 archaeology and 40 divination. This, and I'm assuming we didn't get, I didn't check this, but I'm assuming we didn't get combat XP for the combat parts of the quest, so my skiller could do this quest, in all honesty.
True.
Which is interesting when you think about it.
Even though it's a reset, though, if you think about the reset quests, like having some context for them is usually useful, but you can kind of still follow along if you don't. This one felt a bit, I don't know. I guess you can, and my brain is still resetting to the point that the gods are gone now,
Lord.
and Thea is sort of empress. So. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you're calling her Thea instead of Adrastea. I never thought of calling her that, but...
I've heard Adra.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Both ends there.
Thea Moya, I mean...
Okay. Fair enough.
Thea Moya Paranoia.
Yeah, I think the reason I call her Thea is because there's a book series, and I think there's a character also called Andrastea in there. But she gets referred to as Thea all the time, so that's immediately where my brain went. Plus, it's too fewer syllables. So
and we all know
I'm going to stick with that.
And we know how important it is to try and keep words simple and short to the point for those of us who have problems with big syllable words, eh? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
RSBANDB, purely a one-syllable podcast.
Oh God, I wish.
I know speak English so well.
Yeah, you do very well. You do very well. I guess that's the Dutch education system at work, right?
Sure.
Let's
give it credit where it's not due, but sure.
Okay, so the entire point of this quest, you head up to the Falador Castle, and this picks up after the demon invasions in Elite Dungeon 4. And the whole point of this quest, when you talk to Adrastea, is that she wants to figure out more about what's happening in the Zamarakian Civil War. So she sends you to track down Moya in the wilderness with the help of somebody called Anne Dimitri, who, and this is, I want to know something from you guys. When you first heard of Anne Dimitri and learned that she was in the jail room in Falador Castle where they, quote unquote, I think the exact words were take the dirty laundry out, both literally and figuratively. Were you guys have started having suspicions at this point about who exactly Anne Dimitri might be? And spoilers ahead, by the
way. I literally... You can go back up a couple podcasts to the Aftermath mini quest one, and I was literally saying in that very podcast that I suspected this agent was Trindine.
Yeah, fair. And a fun part about that, depending on how you want to parse it out, Anne Dimitri is an anagram for either am I Trindine or I am Trindine, depending on how you want to.
Or you go for Yoda, and it is Trindine I am.
Oh God. Well, I am. After hearing all these, I am apt to believe that Jagex wanted it to be I am Trindine.
I'll be very honest. I read the lore channel on our Discord before I did the quest. So
okay.
No.
I found out.
Hey, as you know, clan council and moderator, you kind of have to keep abreast of everything that's happening in all the channels. So,
Syrian being a good boy by moderating, and being a bad boy by getting spoiled.
Yes, that cancels out, right?
Yeah.
You're a neutral boy, Syrian.
So, let's talk about... Is there anything about the conversation between you and Anne Dimitri you want to talk about, or should we just jump into finding Moya?
Let's find Moya.
Okay. Yeah. So, wilderness.
Oh, hang on.
Okay.
So, yes. So, I did enjoy the use of 2D cutscenes at the start of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those have worked their way in and have become the standard part of questing nowadays.
They get so much hate for some reason, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh,
real.
2D cutscenes. Like we used to have 3D cutscenes in the game, and now it's 2D like slideshow. I'm like, yeah, but it's much cheaper, and if that means we get more quest, slideshow all the way.
And I mean, you have to use them carefully to balance the slideshow aspect of it with like telling a good story that feels real.
That is something that Modstrike did say in our discussions about Extinction, is that they want to be very careful about how often they get used on that. So that is something that is in the forefront of quest developers at Jagex these days.
In this case, it was literal sketches, so that works in universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so to start finding Moya, we head to the wilderness, the very low level wilderness, and I want to highlight this because this is a point Sirion wanted to make, and I might just make this now. The point in the wilderness you go to is directly by the River Lum, right inside the wilderness at very low level there, and that's where we have our first conversation with Anne Dimitri. And when you think about it, your character effectively stays at this point through the entire quest, because as you move through the quest, after this, the quest teleports you to all the different places you need to go in the wilderness. So you head to the spot near the Zamarakian mage, a little bit south of him, and then you talk to Anne Dimitri there, and then from this point forward, it's just a bunch of teleporting around the wilderness as provided by Anne Dimitri in the quest. And I know we put this down, Sirion, to discuss this later, but do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, I feel it takes away. I mean, not every quest, I think, needs to be... I think in pre-show, Questcaping called it a globetrotter quest. Like, I don't think every quest necessarily needs to be the thing that sends you
absolutely
to all the corners of Gielinor. But at the same time, I don't know, the whole point is this takes place all over the wilderness, and I don't know if it necessarily has to be the introduction to the wilderness. But
it wasn't.
Well, it wasn't, and I don't think it necessarily has to be, right? Like it came out at the same time as the Wildy Reborn, but I don't think it will have the function of being the wilderness introduction quest down the line for new players. So
I think your wilderness.
I don't think it has to have that function.
I think your wilderness introduction is the wilderness task set.
Yeah, but like I didn't even know where the different locations. Like, okay, sure, I know where the Sword of Edicts is, but the other two locations are pretty generic. So you don't really advance in any way. You don't like. There's no storytelling being done to the environment, to where you are, to the geographical locations, and I feel that's a missed opportunity, and it makes the quest feel more. Oh no! It makes it feel less connected to the game world.
Smaller.
Yeah, that's exactly.
It's almost sort of just a collection of vignettes, right? It's as if quests, like it's as if you did Cook's Assistant by staying in the castle all the time, and you get little flashbacks to how you got the egg and the milk. Like it's not the same.
And I've been trying to put my finger on this, what the issue I had with this quest was, and I think this is probably a very large part of it, and I wasn't able to put my finger on it until you explained it in that way.
Yeah, like you go to a location, and then the rest of the quest is instanced.
Which I mean is fine because because keep in mind, the more time you spend in the wilderness at higher levels,
sure,
you have a higher chance of being attacked by something.
I understand the practical reasons for this, but you move to an instance, you're not being told where, you can't even check the world map where, because you're in an instance, right? And you sort of get teleported back and forth, and then you come out and you're like, that's the story. I'm like,
yeah.
But isn't the whole idea that this is taking place in the wilderness? There's demon attacks, we want to figure out what's going on there.
And
I want to sneak around in the wilderness.
And you saw none of that really.
And feel like you're part of the war.
Yes, exactly. And we talked about this last week with the Wilderness rework, right? Where it doesn't feel like there's a war going on in the wilderness. It feels like they dropped a bunch of spawn points in there to make it a good Slayer place. Right? It lacks that storytelling, that environmental storytelling. And the quest could literally have been a really good counterpart to that, and it doesn't. And yeah, go for it.
I also want to say, while it may not be an introduction to the mechanics of the Wilderness Reborn, it's absolutely an introduction to the graphics of the Wilderness Reborn. And if you want to show off your graphics, show them off. Don't just give very specific snippets of it.
Yeah, I was expecting the volcano to be used with the agility shortcut icons and whatnot that are up there, in all honesty. But that'll probably come in later, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's probably a preparation for another update that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
That's a bit like how they did a complete graphical rework of the dig site area.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, there's stairs here, but you can't click them. They don't go anywhere. This is stupid. Why wouldn't they make the stairs go anywhere? And then a few months later, it's the Archaeology Guild.
Yeah, that was May of 2019 we got that rework. And, of course, in March of 2020, the world had gone crazy, and we had archaeology. What a great way to celebrate that was, eh?
Yes.
And getting back to the quest, it's also in relation to introducing the instances of the wilderness and such. What they introduce with this, once you get to your first spot, is you have to interact with points of interest, and what they are is divination wisps, to the point where you can harvest those wisps, gather them, and then activate them. And this activates our divination-based memory storytelling, which is the primary vehicle for storytelling in this quest, where you take control of Moya. And I think this is the first time in RS history that you've taken control of a different character in a quest and played that quest as that character. Is this the first time?
I mean, not really. I was trying to think through examples, and there's Call of the Ancestors, where you play as tiny little goobies doing the puzzles. And most of them are mini quests, I think, in that you have the sagas specifically, because Moya's introduction was the Nadir saga.
Oh my god!
So let's not forget the one MVP quest here: Evil Dave's Big Day Out.
Okay. So there's a bit of a history then for controlling characters and using them in the quest.
Said, I believe that part of the announcement that they made here was that this is the first time you really take control over a different character with like their own combat system. And I don't know, like I think the Dungeoneering sagas are. You play as Moya doing one of those sagas, don't you?
Yes, the Nadir saga. Yeah, that's literally her introduction.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It doesn't seem that unique, but yeah, it's a new combat system that we haven't seen before for sure.
How did you guys feel about the act of taking control of the character and whatnot, and experiencing the quest this way for the majority of it, rather than through your own lens? I mean, obviously, as a person, you're still experiencing it through your screen. Through the RuneScape window and such, but I mean, just rather than having Sirion or Questscaping or Shane12088 experience it, you're experiencing it through the eyes of Moya and memory.
I liked it a lot, and one tiny little thing I personally noticed was that you can examine the little memories that you pick up before going into the flashback full time, and it says something like, "This memory burns with shame," and then you get to find out why. So there's different things that happen at the locations you found those memories.
I need to get better at examining things. I used to do that every time. Then they stopped putting that in, and obviously it's back now. So
got to build up that reflex again.
All right. Should we move on to the combat side of interacting with Moya? Or is there anything else from any of the three memories either of you guys want to pull out?
No.
Okay. I have to say, at this point, that I turned really sour on this quest. Oof. When it came to the combat stuff. And I don't know if this is because of me preferring PVM these days on RS, or if it was just because of the day I was having, but I honestly did not like the way the combat was done in this quest.
Why didn't you like it?
I didn't like the fact that we typically have our whole action bar set up, the evolution of combat system, and instead what you're given is effectively auto attacks and 3 abilities to activate that aren't even used through the typical way you would activate that. And instead it just felt like an entirely different combat system that was put within the game for this quest, and it just felt really disjointed from that. And what I would have preferred, and I don't know how easy this would have been, I would have preferred a system where they could have given some kind of action bar setup and used the existing combat system in game rather than relying on the auto attacks and the 3 abilities.
See, I think there's a very practical reason why they only give you 3 abilities, and this has to do. I mean, this is actually, there's a good comparison here to, for example, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. Like if you play that and you play one shot and you give someone from the get-go a character they have never played before that's like level 10 and has all the abilities, and then you go and run a combat encounter, they're going to spend like 5 minutes looking over all the abilities.
That's true.
Trying to figure out what they have.
Been there.
So you can't really learn more than a few things quickly.
To balance these, it would have been nice to have some escalation potentially between the first and the second combat encounter.
That would have been nice, and I agree. Like, once you've done the first encounter, that was actually the hardest one for me. After that, it was much easier.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, that's right. But, like, I understand why they went for that particular choice. I could have just picked out a few different abilities that you normally have and deal with that. Well, yeah, they could.
Yeah,
but
and the interesting part about that is the icons they used were already icons that were in game for existing abilities.
Sure, but that's just
asset reuse. That's asset reuse.
Yeah,
you know which one is vaguely Surge-like from looking at it, anyway.
Yeah, but the reason I mean, this is me just speculating, but if I were in charge of designing this quest, the reason why I would do it this way is because now you are doing storytelling through gameplay, right? If Moya had exactly the same abilities as we do, but she's half Majorat, right? Half Majorat? Half Majorat, I think.
Yes.
Don't make this my first big lore fill this episode. She's half Majorat, right?
39.6%.
Sure. So having like the drain ability and being like a big part of her combat, I think it really shows that she doesn't fight like you or I do. She's a different kind of creature, and by jumping you into a completely different context and a completely different system, you emphasize that. So I will give you my take on it. I liked that it was completely different from our existing combat system, because even though some of the quests that we have scaling bosses, I feel that you are going to have a different experience in quests.
Oh yeah.
Whether you are a rich, completely kitted out big boy PVMer versus someone who might do some PVM on the side, but doesn't have all the billion plus equipment out there.
Oh, so you're saying this is a way to curate the experience then?
This curates the experience. Everybody goes through this in the same way. They have the same equipment. They have the same stuff. They all need to almost learn from scratch, right?
Right.
Also, because you're not doing this as your own character, you don't get combat XP. This makes this quest, despite having combat, accessible for skillers all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it really becomes the story of Moya, right? All of a sudden, you can tell stories like that without impacting the base character, without having to tag the player character on as the sidekick who, at the end of it, gets fooled again, because of course they get double-crossed, because that's sort of the staple of the World Guardian or ex-World Guardian, whatever. So I like that use of the combat system. Was it perfect? No. It felt a bit awkward.
Okay,
right?
I agree. It feels awkward, and I have two questions on this, and one of them is kind of a statement. So the first question I have on this is: do you think that this could at all be confusing for somebody who started playing the game a few months ago?
Definitely.
The different combat systems.
Yeah, it's not the first time it's been done in RuneScape, but the other example of a combat system for an NPC like this is Nomad's Elegy, which is way down the track for any newbie coming into this medium-level quest. And yeah, so honestly, I found myself going one ability at a time and sort of realizing halfway through, oh, right, this does this. And it's very abrupt how it gets you into it, but like that these monsters are aggressive, so maybe you just sort of skim read the attack descriptions before you go into it.
Yeah, and you also got those exploding stars you got to avoid and all that other fun stuff. And so I'm with you, Sirion, that this was the difficult one, the first one.
Yeah, well, maybe I was lucky because I had read the descriptions before combat even started. So look, I knew what to expect and all that stuff. And yeah, no, it took me maybe a few moments to figure out when to use which ability.
Right.
And by the end, I maybe didn't quite feel like I fully had the grasp of it. But it's fine. It's good enough. And I don't know. Is it confusing for new players? Maybe, but I think this is less confusing than giving them a system that's very much like their own combat system, but not quite, right? I think you'd rather go all the way different and be like, yeah, this is not your normal combat system. It's something new, rather than, oh yeah, but you only have these 3 abilities, and this one works slightly differently. And instead of having all these special cases, they were just like, let's just throw the whole combat system out of the window and put something custom in place.
Yeah,
so it's different, but it's at least simple different.
And the problem,
it's the same as the Dino, tower defense that we did
right
in Anachronia. That was a custom system. Was that not confusing? I mean, it was also confusing, but that came down to execution, right?
Yeah,
I think it's not unreasonable for quests to have their own mechanics.
And the interesting part about that is it perhaps raises a bigger question about combat in RS and how difficult it is going to be, or how difficult it is to get into it, because you and I have discussed countless times about how getting a boss fight in RS that's actually easy to read is a huge achievement on that. So, and we did that experiment with all the new bosses that have come out. Is that I would send, and like all the Elder God fronts, I'd send you a video of me killing it, and you'd try and read the mechanics before knowing it, and it was not a successful endeavor. Let's just say.
No.
So, and maybe this is just a wider reflection on the way RS combat works in general, and that it's just kind of sits in that weird little box. So,
I want to say it almost felt more like a puzzle than combat to me. You sort of have to work out where you're going to be at what time and what to do while you're there. So more like a bit of a tactical game than just slay a beat 'em up.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Look, I think the implementation was perhaps a bit clunky, and I don't mean that in any negative way, because I think it is just.
I mean,
it's
the RS combat system, right?
Exactly. It's like name one quest, like custom quest system that's not slightly clunky,
right?
We're talking about Elemental Workshop or something like that. That's clunky. But all of it is clunky. But that being said, it was refreshing, at least.
Okay.
They tried something new, and I think that is something we should consider as a positive point.
Very true. And
I think Fen, of Questscaping, your feedback of, let there be some escalation, I think that would have fixed a lot of this.
Okay. And I'll just say that when you look at other MMOs that have cookie cutter fetch quests and such, and not too much combat in their quests, having something like this that in effect curates a story-based experience like this is actually a welcome sight. And I think if you were to say, hey guys, you're going to play RS3 this week, it's double XP live, and you can treat RuneScape skilling like your idle clicker, but hey, why don't you press that pause button, take a break, and go do this quest for an hour? And you give this quest to somebody who hadn't played RS before. I think everything we talked about here would justify the decisions that were made on this. So while me, as somebody who knows the combat system quite well, really didn't like it, I think after discussing it here, looking at it from the perspective of somebody who might be new to RS, this is a good thing to do.
It comes down to expectations, I think. If
Bingo.
if you are like a PVMer and okay,
yep.
I've killed Yakamaru, I can now kill everything, and then the game is like, I'm gonna throw a new system at you. Yeah, that's maybe you're not gonna like that.
And that's the lens I was approaching
because
it as.
All of a sudden you're no longer the cool kid on the block, because nobody is the cool kid on the block, right?
Yeah.
And
we're all in the same boat here.
I like that, right? Let's put everyone at the same level and have them figure it out themselves. And let's also be clear, right, is that if you do struggle with this combat system, they have learned their lesson at Jagex that, if you come out, you lose. I lost the first battle. I'm not ashamed to admit that. it was like, hey, do you want us to, make the encounters easier? And honestly, I'm one for the story content. I don't play hard games necessarily a lot.
Yeah.
I just want to have the experience. So I was like, yeah, sure, make the fights easy for me. So I think it was like half damage or something like that. The enemies do
you
half
take
damage.
half damage.
And all of a sudden it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was a good system. Like, I'm glad that accessibility.
I didn't do that till the final boss.
Ooh.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And that's another important accessibility thing too. Just like we saw with the Erebus puzzle and Extinction, these are all provided as options. So
yeah.
I mean,
the next step for me would literally be if you die 3 or 5 times, you can skip it entirely. I think that is completely fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I did see some people who said that even with the 50% damage reduction on, they could not do it.
Yeah,
Ooh.
And I think it should be fine to just skip it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting much.
The beautiful thing about RuneScape.
You're not getting much lore from the combat side of it, aside from some examine infos and such. So I think that would be the path to go. Given the way I came into this, I will agree with you that that's the path to go, because you want these quests to be as experienceable as they can to the widest selection of players out there. So, Okay. So I came in with a mixed bag, coming out a little bit better on that. That's not too bad. So we'll accept that.
Okay, so we get dinner tonight in our basement.
Yay! Thank you, Master Shane.
Okay. So you have 2 more memories after the first, or 2 more fights after the first one, and then the boss fight. I think our next question that we want to talk about with this quest is kind of unveiling and nailing down perhaps what Moya's endgame might be with that. But before we do that, I just want to thank some Patreon supporters this week, because you guys allow us to do what we do here at Update and all the fun extracurricular things that we do, like our monthly roundtables, our monthly bits, and the special production of the bank roasting, which will be coming out this weekend on the Patreon feed. So in particular this week, I'd like to thank Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Big Huge Rat, Bryflex, Chunk the Monk, Diana, Dominic F., Drama Free, Duramax, Elo Matey, Flaza Man, Free Milk, Jacob G, Jade Gizmo, Jason S, Jeebus, Jesse W, Ling01, Mohan V, Nate the Great, Nick G, OTR Gamer, Patty the Architect, Pernasius, Renhawk, Ricky A, Samuel FL, Skiotan, Scott DS, Seth W, Stub Eve, The Naked Captain, and Tom V. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us to do what we do here at RSBANDB. It truly means the world to us. If you want to figure out and have a look at what all of the Patreon offerings are, just head on over to patreon.com/RSBANDB. We have 3 plans there, starting for as little as $1 a month. And for $1 a month, you gain access to that entire back catalog of monthly bits, including our discussion on achievements that we had earlier this month, the discussion on the boss tier list, discussion on legacy combat, and as I mentioned, the upcoming bank roast special. You'll gain access to all of that starting for as little as $1 a month. We also do have a one step up, the VIP tier for $3 a month. We get a special VIP rank on Discord, including a special chat channel, and a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, in addition to high-quality stereo versions of the podcast. And we have the Insider tier. If you want to give the ultimate gift, you'll get a shout-out each and every week, and you'll gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. So just a big thank you goes out to everybody for allowing us to do what we do here and just have a little bit of extra fun along the way. And hopefully you guys enjoy the content we produce, because we do this each and every week. We love doing it, and that's why we're here. So thank you so much, everybody, for allowing us to do this. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what Moya might be up to next. What's Moya's endgame in all this? And it's worth noting that the boss fights and whatnot all play out relatively similar, so we're not going to talk too much about combat in those. But after you get to the end and go through the boss fight, what's Moya's endgame with all this?
Who knows?
Because this goes back to what Sirion was saying about seeing the Zamarakian Civil War. I didn't feel like I learned that much about it. Maybe a bit about the various factions with Bilrock and such and who's involved, but
He's got a bizarre fascination with Zerosian titles like Legate and Tribune. But Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I learned much extra about what was happening in the wilderness between these people.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like you are part of it. It feels like they're their own tiny little segments, but this is happening as a very separate story to what you're in.
Yeah.
I mean, this is only just starting up, and
yeah, that's true. So we shouldn't rake it across the coals that
meant
badly.
To be, yeah.
This is the introduction to hey, this storyline's happening.
Yeah, I feel you.
And maybe it's because we've been on that high fantasy angle since 2013. We had Guthix die. We had the fight for the Stone of Jazz. We met a bunch of gods along the way, and then, the elder gods are waking up, and we have to find a way to prevent them from destroying the world. Maybe it's just that we're still coming down from that high-energy storyline, that we're getting reintroduced to something simple that could effectively come out of 2007 Scape.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need to take a step back and say, hey, if this was back in 2007 and we were watching the lineups for the first iPhone around the block, it's August again, 2007, watching the lineups for that iPhone. Maybe we just need to go and pay attention to that instead of the quest.
I mean, you say that, but like, I had it just a second ago, trying to find words. Words are hard. I think there's sort of two things, right? Like, either there's this war, and it's told. It's pretty literally told to us, like, hey, there's this war going on. Do you want to get involved? Yes, because I want to do this quest. And then the war sort of disappears to the background, and there's a few mechanics, but they don't tell a story. That feels weird. I feel either you need to then really get the player involved in it, or you need to tell a different story that's not the story of the war, but against the background of the war. And I feel that this quest was trying to be a bit the second one, right? It's trying to tell a story about Moya, of setting up a story about Moya, against the background of this Zamarakian war. But your hook is literally, hey, please check out the Zamarakian war, right? It's a bit like, hey, can you please do this fetch quest for me? You go and spend an hour questing, you come back, and like, oh, great that you had all these adventures. Did you get my stuff? No. Right? That's kind of what happened here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you go shopping, you get distracted, you buy all kinds of stuff, and you didn't go back with the bag of milk that you wanted to buy. Look, I'm integrating with Canadians here.
Oh, you said bag of milk and it just blended into the background for me.
Come on, we have cartons of milk here, just like the rest of the world.
Just like the real world, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's sort of the feeling I'm getting about it.
Okay, so in general, then let's just assume the idea was just to introduce the character of Moya at a deeper level, I guess, than what we might have been introduced to before.
I want to say a good sort of experiment you could do with this is play it as a double bill with the Nadia saga and see how they compare. Moya's introduction versus her latest quest.
I don't think anybody in modern RS should be forced to play any of those dungeoneering sagas. They have not aged well.
Well, true. They were made just at the brink of EOC's death, and now they have not adapted well to EOC. But I think it feels like good storytelling. I did it fairly recently, and
I would agree. I think they are among the better examples of how to do storytelling in RuneScape.
Okay, all right, fair.
Especially the talk ones. They're good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And maybe it's just the characters in general, because I have to admit that going back even to when Moya was ambassador, I really, really didn't have much affinity for the characters, so that might be coloring my lens. And the reason I say that is because we go back to the Desperate Times and Desperate Measures series, and you were specifically mentioning Thok, and I was thinking about the chemistry between Thok and Charos back then. And that was something that I absolutely got behind, which was entirely different. So I'm wondering if maybe I had a different affinity for Moya, I'd have a different perspective.
Maybe we need to see more of Adrastea and Moya's strange tension, hey?
Yeah. But in that case, anything else on Moya, endgame-wise, about what she might be up to with this?
I genuinely don't know what she's up to. It's and not really in a good way, honestly. Like, she's just saying she wants to be something, but with no real indication of what that something is. Like, is she still in allegiance with Bilrak? Because she seems to be doing all right with that, with maybe a few moments of tension. But if she's planning to go off alone in the middle of all this, then unless she has a very good plan, then good luck with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think we didn't. I think it's fine if a quest doesn't necessarily give you clear-cut answers, but it almost feels a bit like Moya herself is sort of doesn't know yet what's going to happen, right? Like, it feels all a bit, okay, what now? Like, nobody seems to really know anything more. Like, there's no... I feel that a really good trick in storytelling is sort of faking complexity, right? Pretending as if there are more complicated things and reasons happening behind the screens. And that also was lacking, I feel. Like, there was some stuff about the factions.
I thought you didn't like that kind of storytelling.
How do you mean?
Never mind, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, sure. But, I mean, I don't necessarily care about the story. It's not necessarily the storytelling, but it's the world building, right?
Yeah.
As well.
I mean,
and there was there was very little character building and world building happening in this quest.
I mean, why does Trindine want Avarice captured?
That was where I wanted to go next, actually. What did you guys think of where Trindine appeared, or when Trindine appeared and mentioned that wanted Avarice captured? Because I feel like we should discuss that, move on to Adrastea, and wrap up, because there's not too much else to say.
Poor Twin Furies. They were originally triplets, and now they're just down to one.
Well, my question to you, like, what was your feeling about Trindine showing up? I was a bit like, again, because it feels a bit like they're overusing that character, and does now every shady character need to be Trindine? I think that
right,
would diminish the moments that she does actually show up.
And it's always there's always that nugget in your head that Trindine is related to Zaros and was freed from the prison at Curated. That maybe we might be going back on that Zarosian track, because there's still a lot of players out there who want to see the story take that angle. So
and I feel if they I mean, they could have used Sir Owen, so to speak, or another character that's already sort of Saradominist related.
But we need to have the Zarosian involvement. Who else is a vehicle for that?
Why? Okay, that you skipped a step there. Why do we need the Zarosian involvement?
To show that exactly what you were saying, that there's more going on in the background, that it's not just the Saradominist kingdoms and this Zamarakian civil war, that there's more at play and it's more complicated.
But that sort of gets revealed at the end of the quest. I think it would almost have been more impactful if it was more openly someone from a different faction. Because, like, then you sort of sandwich that implication that more is going on at the beginning and the end of the quest, instead of just at the end being like, ha ha! Also, the Zarosians are involved.
I mean, for anyone who
think as much.
For anyone who knew it was Trindine all along, which a lot of lorehounds would have, it does become very clear that Trindine's involved. And so the question of why is Trindine involved is very present throughout.
Who is Trindine? Why is Trindine?
It's all a Zarosian plot. Just as it has been since the very beginning when we first ventured into the dig site.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. But that would be my that was sort of my another gripe I had with the quest. I'm like, it's an introductory quest, and I would have been fine if they had left that Zarosian or external influence a bit more implicit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe save it till the second or third quest, eh?
Yeah, and maybe that. I mean, that's a rant I could hold about all of TV and series right now.
That's where I was going, Sirion. You mentioned that about the multiple layers of storytelling and whatnot, and I remember week by week in Discovery Season 4, you were complaining about that.
Yeah, what I really dislike is when storytelling doesn't trust the consumer of that story to think for themselves. Yeah. Where it's like, I need to tell you word by word what's happening here, right? I think it's much more interesting, especially in the early phases of a storyline, is to leave things a little bit open to the imagination. And sure, if a lorehound can find it out, that's great, but maybe a new player gets surprised all of a sudden in Quest 3 that been trimmed in all along.
I mean, I think the problem here is maybe part of it, the way the order, specifically, in which the story is being told. You are either starting this knowing some of the story beforehand or knowing essentially nothing. And so the quest has to serve both perspectives. And maybe it'll be relatively fine later on in this storyline when they've got the weight of itself behind it. But if this is both a start and a continuation, then that's a bit difficult because you're having to continue things and introduce them to two separate audiences.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously,
I think overall,
go ahead.
On this quest is what I feel is that, I mean, I'm not a big storyteller or writer, but I feel a good story consists of what is it, setting, character, and plot, or something like that, right? And I feel sure the characters are there, and they might be very developed. They clearly have motivations. They're not clear to us, but the characters exist. Setting, it's there. We just had the Gods Band. That's the wilderness. It's all described. It's there. What's the plot of this quest?
Well, we're going to find out in short order because we only got 6 months on the storyline, presumably.
Yeah, but shouldn't the quest itself at least have some kind of wrapping up point?
Right, about
this feels
where we go next.
It's not even a part 1 quest. Even Morning's End part 1 had an ending.
Yeah.
Right?
and what they're taking with this is very clearly the way that modern TV shows go, because I think Mod Jack even mentioned that storytelling should be pulled from that serialized nature in one of those lore talks he did.
Sure, and that's fine with me as long as you don't just look at an episode and you're like, okay, shouldn't an episode stand on its own to some extent at least?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the quest, you mean? Yeah,
and the same with the quest, and that I don't know. The quest left me with okay, what have I just learned? Right? What have I just gained out of this? Except for 30,000 divination and 30,000 archaeology experience. And a Chaos Die upgrade, I think. But
yeah, that's fair. All right. What do we think of Adrastea at the end of this? Naive, pragmatic?
I had something noted down. It was specifically in the way that she treated the reveal that Anne Dimitri was Trindine all along. Gasp! And she didn't even actually particularly seem to care. She had apparently suspected Anne Dimitri of being something else for a while, but didn't really mind as long as they were a good agent. And even being a Zarosian doesn't seem to ruffle her feathers one bit. Yep, cool, we're fighting for relatively the same cause. We're both in favor of order, so be it. And
I mean, that reminds me of how Adrastea kind of worked together with Moya, right?
In Extinction, yeah.
And in Extinction.
And it would also be in line with the reformed Saradominist experience before he was banished.
Because Saradomin was working with Azanadra at the Battle of the Monolith.
Yeah.
That was definitely pragmatic, just the lesser of two evils. But with Adrastea, can't really tell yet. Is she just doing this for the sake of having an ally against a greater evil, or is she doing this because she wants to bridge all the gaps and be happy?
Yeah, Adrastea doesn't really come across as someone who plots a lot. At the same time,
she's honestly like you.
Yeah. I don't know how to respond to this, so I'm just going to ignore it. But
maybe not.
But
let's be 100% honest. You're 100% more deep than a quest character.
Yeah, no, sure, but
Shane.
She is very, yeah. She could be very honest, right? That's one angle, and that's kind of how she is portrayed. I would love it if it is revealed that she has been plotting and has fought like 5 steps ahead of us somewhere down the line. I would love that.
You mean if she pulled a Zarosian kind of thing?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, not necessarily Zarosian, and not necessarily,
Well, it's same kind of level of deceit.
Not necessarily even deceit,
okay.
Right? Just,
holding the
ahead.
cards.
Yeah, exactly. Like 5 steps ahead, right? Like maybe she knew all this, and she's just, putting all the pieces on the chessboard where she wants them. I would love that. I think we need a character like that. That, we kind of lost with, Azanadra, who used to be a bit like that. Guthix is another really...
Is that character not trending now?
I think Trendine is a little bit too, gotcha there, immediate. Like, sure, but she almost has the role of... what is it? Like the Pokemon, the Ditto, right? Is that Ditto?
She is everyone.
Yes, exactly. Like the purple Pokemon that's babies you blob and can turn into
that's Ditto.
Every Pokemon, except for their eyes never changed, but nobody ever looks at the eyes, apparently, and doesn't notice.
But remember her role in Azanadra's quest, where you were tagging along with her the entire time, and she was in the background doing stuff and carefully misdirecting you. She is upfront about being tricksy as hell, but she is also using that as a disguise. So it's sort of layers upon layers,
Perhaps.
And we'll find out all in good time, but I think you raised 2 very good points here, that you could have either Adrastea or Trendine very much fit a different mold, or fit the same mold if your idea that Adrastea be plotting pans out, and it's both of them going about effectively the same thing, yet for 2 different world philosophies that are different on it.
I think the stereotype of leader who doesn't know what they are doing and is super naive is... I'm not sure if that's the right thing that the storyline needs right now. If we want that, we can just put the King of Varrock.
Oh, God. Hey, King Road, what do you think of all this?
Like, he seems a bit like that type, right? Who doesn't know anything about the supernatural.
Oh.
But Adrastea, I don't know. I think it would... Unless they play it off like really interestingly, I feel it diminishes her character. Like, they're really trying to make her interesting. So yeah.
I think they could be going in interesting directions. She's trained in statecraft. She was willing to imply that maybe you should actually kill Moya. Stuff like that. She's grappling with the necessity to be a harsh leader, but hasn't really had to face it quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and once again, that will all be revealed in due time, I imagine. So,
and it's a great opportunity for character development, right?
Yeah,
as well.
All right, let's move on to our final question, and then we'll wrap it up with this. What does this quest accomplish?
It's a beginning. That's about it, really, but yeah.
Yeah.
For 30,000 divination and 30,000 archaeology XP.
Yeah, plus the upgrade to the die.
Plus the update to the die. Yeah, it leaves wanting for more, I guess.
Yeah, and let's be 100% honest here. This felt like a mini quest, except in length.
I mean, we've had some really long mini quests.
Yeah, that's true.
I think so.
That's true. There's also
it's definitely more involved and bigger than a mini quest.
Yeah, there's also the Order of Displayed and Order of Dismace cosmetic overrides that you get from the quest, in addition to the XP.
I only just got those puns now that you were saying it out loud.
Right. You have to read them aloud before you get them.
So you never knew about the Order of Disrobes.
I knew that one. But the artifact info text points that one out, so I had a helping hand.
Pretty obvious.
And I guess, once again, I'll highlight, we're coming off this 9-year venture of the Sixth Age stuff with the gods and such, and it's only natural to want more at that point, I feel. And we need to underscore that this is the very beginning of another storyline. A storyline that was set to specifically de-escalate what was happening in-game. And because of that, that's why it feels like, we just learned that, Moya's moving around, Trindine is involved, and some stuff has been going on in the wilderness. And quest complete.
Yeah, I just wish that we had gotten at least something. And now I feel we walked away with, usually a few questions are answered, and then more questions are raised, right?
This didn't do any of that, really.
And this raised a lot of questions, but it didn't answer.
Right, and maybe that's so.
Except for who is Anne Dimitri, but since that's a character that's introduced in this quest, meh.
And that was hammered over the head all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and perhaps that's the thing we take away from this then. So
for me, it was not one of the stronger quests
of
the game.
Yeah, that's fair. And once again, as we move through this, as we went through last week, and has been the case for, I feel like, the last 2 years at this point, grade A marks go out to the audio team for the music tracks behind this quest, and the environment team for the environments behind this quest as well.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, alrighty, folks, that's Daughter of Chaos, first start of the Legacy of Zamarak storyline. It's been a while since we've been at a point where we had a quest that was just introducing things and relatively, I don't know if I'll say low stakes, but it is what it is at that point. I want to move on to our next piece of content this week, and we were surprised this week with a new currency event promotion touching on the fact that RuneScape has now surpassed 300 million accounts.
Dun, 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 dun.
And to the point that the counter might have actually been underestimating it, and they figured they're probably closer to 320 million right now. And with this, it's been about 10 years since they hit 200 mil. And, this is just an occasion, I think, that we can celebrate, because we're all here. We all have our communities. We all have our friends from this game. And 300 million accounts is a milestone that I think very few MMOs are able to get to. And I think this is just a good time to take an opportunity and reflect on where we've been, who we have, and the communities that we built over that period of time with that. And that's precisely what you'll see at the Grand Exchange this week, and apparently next week too. They say, however, we've got something else in the works. We've been working on this for many months now, and since we first thought about how we could really celebrate hitting 300 million players, and while we're not quite ready to talk about it today, we're almost at that point. Stay tuned for more news next week. It's going to be fun. What's happening next week for 300 mil, guys?
No idea, but it better be cool.
Yeah, it better be. because they're going through that whole same thing again where they tease the announcement of an announcement. So, but you log in, you talk to Party Pete at the Grand Exchange, you get a pair of 300 mil glasses, just like you had the 200 mil set of glasses. You can get a free daily balloon from Party Pete that has party food in it, oddments, bonus XP stars, just XP lamps. And you get balloon fragments because he was blowing up balloons, and he blew up too many of them that they exploded throughout the entire world. So whenever you're skilling on Yak Track skill and kill fragments, you get balloon fragments, and you can just turn those into Party Pete for a chance at getting balloons. And when you turn those in, you have the chance of getting not only more lamps, XP, party food, and some cosmetics, but you also have a chance at getting some recolored Pernix armors, interestingly enough. And these are the ultra rare prize. Rarity is being estimated at this point at similar rarity to the Green Santa hat when those came out. So just take that for what it's worth. They're currently worth quite a lot on the Grand Exchange. There's also, and we'll talk about which one of these we want in a minute, there's also new t-shirts featuring, you guys ready for this? Colored t-shirts featuring the King Black Dragon, the Wise Old Man, and the Gnome Child.
Yes. I feel like these should be on the merch store as well.
Oh, yeah, they definitely should be.
That's a missed opportunity right there.
I want the Gnome Child t-shirt.
Oh, maybe that's, maybe that's the big announcement next week.
Oh, good. Oh, hey guys, we're rolling out a new set of merch here on the official store. Go pick up your Gnome Child.
Would you like some t-shirts with your t-shirts?
But the interesting part about that is I think they already have Gnome Child and Wise Old Man sweatshirts centered around Christmas colors on there. So, it's also worth noting that you can get the balloon fragments from Treasure Hunter as well, just like we saw with the Green Party hat stuff, or Green Santa hat stuff at Christmas, rather. Which of these armor pieces do you guys want, if any?
They do look pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. I'm personally more interested in the stuff they're bringing back from previous years, but I do love the look of the next armors, so I'm into it.
All right. How about you, Sirion?
Let me take a look at how they look.
Okay. Fair enough. And while I'm here, and while we're here talking about this, it's also worth noting that the Grand Exchange got a bit of a graphical refresh with this too.
Sorry, but all of these armors cover my abs.
Unacceptable.
Of course you'd say that. No, but if you had to pick one, which one would you like?
Pernix.
Yeah. And I think that's a good choice to go with, honestly, of the three of them.
I'd go Virtus.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm trying to figure out what the exact Grand Exchange prices are currently on this, but suffice to say they all start at north of $1 billion GP. So, I mean, they're going to come down. They're going to crash, kind of like the Green Santa hat did. I don't think you'll see them at Green Santa hat values because it's not a Santa hat. So just keep that in mind if you want to grab one of these, and you have until September 4th to claim one. That's how long this promotion is going to be in the game. So there's going to be lots of time over double XP and just until September 4th to get these fragments, turn them in, and try and pick some of these up on that. And the interesting part about this is that if you look at the balloon fragments, based on what the RS Wiki has, people submitting data to the RS Wiki, it's estimated that the golden balloon, which gives you a chance at either 300 mil or one of the replica next armor pieces, is about a 1 in 3,400 chance.
That's big.
Yeah. So that's the level of rarity we're looking at here, guys. I mean, I guess, like, are people going to... What I'm wondering with this is, are people going to buy treasure hunter keys just to get the...
Yes.
Get the balloon fragments?
People will buy treasure hunter keys for anything.
Or is Jagex going to run a promotion a few weeks down the line like they did with the Green Santa hat, where you're actually able to get these on treasure hunter is my next question.
True. Wouldn't surprise me.
Why not both?
Exactly. So I just wanted to put that out there in case we might be on the same trajectory as what happened with Green Santa hat, and it is about that time to do that in the middle of the summer. If it would have been 6 months exactly if they would have done it last month, but. So
the word of wisdom is hold off a little because it might come out a different way.
Yeah, hold off a little on using your treasure hunter keys if you're going for it that way, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're having the same discussion we had with the Green Santa hat and the Golden Party hat, in that these are the way we should be doing rares in this day and age, and I think you were on that episode, Questcaping, when we talked about that.
I was indeed.
Yeah, so I don't feel like we need to retread territory there. Sirion, do you have anything to say about how they bring rare items into game like that?
Nope.
Okay. What about 300 mil? Any reflections on 300 mil?
I think it's cute that that's the amount of GP you can win as the super rare reward.
Yeah.
Yeah, inflation has hit all of us, huh?
Well, I mean, calculating it based on what the RS Wiki has right now, it's only a 0.02% chance at getting that golden balloon.
Look, it's 300 mil used to be a lot of money. I feel this day and age,
it's not.
It's not. So, I don't know.
Yeah. And, I mean, we'll obviously be having more discussions about that when the time comes to talk about what they're going to be doing for the GE stuff. So, I wonder with this, do you think they're going to keep the ground treatments that they did to the Grand Exchange and just remove the 300 mil banner and...
Yes. Yeah, there has been talk about redoing some of the textures around Varrock and whatnot. It was...
Mod Black, which is Game Jam.
Yes, that was it. Yeah, I would like to see that, and I think it would fit in, like, if/hopefully when that gets into game. Like,
great
nice way of getting graphical updates in through the back door, or at least graphical refreshes.
Yeah, and all it is basically ground texture, revamping, changing the lighting to make it a little bit more warm, and the decorations, which can be swapped out apparently also at Christmas time too. So
it does
be a good thing to do. Yeah. I think the last thing we want to say on this is that you were saying, Questcaping, that the additional rewards from years past are also here at the 300 mil party, including things like the Boogie Bow, the Conga Dance, the Party Fever token, and so on and so forth. There's also new disco outfits, Sirion. Disco, cool disco, and super disco outfit pieces that are colored differently.
Why did you call me by name for that specifically?
I figure, I mean, if you're going to move away from the outfit that you regularly wear, disco might be a good option.
It's got cleavage, but it doesn't have abs.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how to respond to this.
You've been stereotyped.
I've been stereotyped into liking disco, apparently. Okay. I of all the things that I did not expect happening, that one I might have expected the least.
I posted the image for you. In the RuneScape.
I mean, that's very extravagant.
It's also recolorable.
I'm into it. Also, I appreciate that the person wearing this for the wiki photograph has purple and pink streaked hair.
That's on theme for sure. Yeah.
Fashionscape.
You gotta just admire all the fashionscape stuff that comes in to game these days, and that's perhaps one of the more important things that RuneScape is overlooked for, is just how crazy you can make the characters look, but it's its own very unique style. So, in any case, we're going to move on to the patch notes right now and talk about some changes that were made to the Wilderness Reborn update, because that is also still on the topic from last week. So the Abyss changes that Mod Jack was talking about are here, folks. Based on the feedback, the following changes have been made to the Abyss. 1. The Abyss can now be entered without the requirement of being opted into PvP. The 250% runecrafting XP bonus is still applicable for opted-out players who runecraft via the Abyss. That's amazing. The 4 and 3 bracelet will no longer consume a charge when entering the Abyss while equipped, and the Examine has been updated to reflect its change. And players who do not opt in for PvP and use the Demonic Skull receive the 350% XP bonus. Or, sorry, who do opt in for PvP receive the 350% XP bonus. I can't underscore how big of a change this is.
Runecrafters get to not die for a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, as it stands right now, it looks as though, if you believe the RS Wiki money-making guide, Blood and Water Runecrafting is still 20 million GP plus an hour, which for skilling is a very, very good skilling money-making method. So,
not combat, the other thing.
Exactly.
This is one of the best money-making methods there is, so all the better for it not to be impeded, hey?
Yeah. Sirion?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of people. Rune prices are high, and I think the best solution to that is more people runecrafting. So I think this is good, and it was years ago that they did the rune value improvement update. Yeah, if we remember that. And these are still the after effects of that, and I think it's working as intended in many ways. So, I absolutely love that this is a thing.
Indeed. But we also got more other patch notes here this week about the Wilderness Reborn. I don't know why I didn't highlight this one in the doc, but Slayer chests were being destroyed on death before. They will now only be destroyed if you have PvP enabled. Otherwise, the chest will be protected. They've also added additional sound effects for the Wilderness Volcano shortcuts, the Wilderness Volcano random event projectile, and the Wilderness ambushes now have a spawn sound that they make when they spawn. And this one... Go ahead.
Because beforehand, that was just a text trigger from the looks of things, and that is not going to be very noticeable. Yeah,
and you get surprised with, two mammoths, an onyx dragon, and a bunch of revenants.
Woohoo!
Yeah, it'd be nice to have kind of a notification sound for that. So, glad to see that one in there. We also have another big patch note here, just in time for double XP. Super Antifire potions can now be bought and sold and traded on the Grand Exchange.
Mm-hmm. That lies in line with the direction they've been going with.
Yeah, and if anything, you assume at this point it's in that same category of extreme, that when they did the extreme potions before last double XP, this was probably an oversight on that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Desert Phoenix is about to get a ton more feathers plucked.
Yeah, exactly, and I am really thankful for this one, because I feel like making the super antifires from those Desert Phoenixes are perhaps one of the most tedious potions you could make. So if you just want to go out and buy them now, you have that option. So,
can I add something else?
Yeah.
That doesn't appear to be in the patch notes, but was in the event post, the news post. It's about double XP and something that does appear to be new this DXP, unless I missed it last time round. So it says, if you won't be using all your time, every day you can also trade 1 hour of double XP time for credits to use with Nick the Trader. Is that new?
Yeah. That was in last double XP.
Okay, I missed that one.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right, I like that idea.
Yeah, and I mean, there's obviously 10 days, so you're only able to trade 10 hours in, but still, if you're not going to be using it all, why not, right?
It's a sweet chunk.
So, Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good addition that was added. Also, picking up coins outside of the wilderness, no matter your PvP state, will now see them go directly into the coin pouch rather than your inventory. Okay.
Yeah, that was a funny one.
I don't get why that would have been the case.
Yeah, there was a weird bug where people lost large amounts of money because they changed some of the logic about picking up gold, and if you went over your max stack, I think, in your money pouch, things would go weird.
Ooh.
Yeah, you would lose money. Like it would disappear.
Well, at least they've done better than old school on that, because there was a bug there where every gold drop became a max cash stack.
Oh!
That was quite something.
Oh,
that got
boy.
rolled back.
Oh, well, yeah, definitely. Oh, my God. All right. Also updated 2 of the Onyx Dragons of the Wilderness to be Dragonstone Dragons. Those ones were missing, of course. For their own safety, the Ghostly Piper has been moved away from their old spot to a new spot nearby, one that's a little bit less dragon contested. We talked about this last week, how you have bankers and rest people just sitting in the middle of mobs of Slayer creatures. So, that's good. Fixed an issue where creatures spawned in via the wilderness threat that could appear at higher mapping levels, making it look like they were floating. Okay. And this might be why my Dark Beast task felt so lackluster, is that Wilderness Dark Beasts now drop loot matching other Dark Beasts.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it felt weird, but okay. Dummies can no longer be placed down well in the wilderness.
Fair enough.
Yeah, makes sense. And then
that
we
feels
come
like it could have been a skull tricking thing.
Yeah, and that, or maybe something with XP multipliers, who knows. And then general patch notes for Zamarak. The Zamarak boss fight still a month later. Made a change to the rare drop table to incentivize higher enrage pushing, so that rare chance now increases with further boss enrage, and bow chance will increase with further boss enrage. I feel like this was a discussion that was had that the PVM community wanted that they didn't initially do, but now they've, I guess, had to do because maybe there was a die down on people in rage pushing. I don't know. I don't exactly know what the logic is behind this, but I do know that bow is stupid expensive, and I think we had this discussion with the other Elder God Wars bosses, is that when it comes down to it at the end of the day, you want the loot from these bosses to be accessible and not mystical, so to speak. So, while still rare, you don't want it to be mystical rare, if that makes sense, I guess.
Bow of the Last Guardian actually exists, as opposed to
might just
ancient, spoken of in legend.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah. And finally, fixed an issue with resonance and reflect abilities when engaging in PvP while having the Bow of the Guardian equipped. And the idea behind this is that they just were not working. So, there's the patch notes for the week, everybody. I think the most favorite one there is probably the rune crafting one. So. Alrighty. With that being said, let's move on to our pick of the week, and I think Zirion's going to grace us with another pick of the week this week.
Yeah, so last week I went pretty out there with an entire game genre. This time I'm being a bit more vanilla. I'm going to talk about a book. It's a book by Brandon Sanderson, who by the way is so incredibly productive in the number of books he releases. Like, I think he releases like a new book every year or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is like, you'd think that would suffer in terms of like quality. No. He comes up with the most interesting magic systems and all that stuff, and most of his books are really good. So I'm surprised. This one was not an exception. So I'm going to quickly tell you the premise of this, and you're going to tell me that that absolutely makes no sense. And why would you write a book about this? But basically, this is a world in which the technology level is. It's not steampunk. It's something that, strictly speaking, is called coil punk, right? So it has the same idea of, very fancy machines and sort of almost pre-industrial. But steampunk is very sort of steam-based, like steam machines and steam-powered. That's not here. Basically, everything is powered from coils they wound up. So they have like people who spend like an hour winding up a coil, and that then drives the train system for an entire day, right? Super interesting, well thought out. That's sort of the setting. The magic system, you're not going to believe that, is based around chalk drawings.
What?
Chalk drawings.
I mean, I heard you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea is that you can make certain drawings, and they have a certain function. So if you make draw like a circle, that's like a protective wall, and then you can put lines in it to sort of stabilize it. And you can draw little creatures, and those creatures can attack other people. And of course, the more perfectly circular your circle is, the stronger it is, and the better drawn your little creatures, the more powerful they are. And that's it. That's the magic system.
Has anyone introduced them to compasses?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, the idea is they use. It's almost like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon-like system, right? where they battle things out using chalk drawings, and like the little creatures that draw then animate and move over the floor to attack the circle of the other creature. It's like I told you, I'm gonna tell you, and you're gonna be like, who writes a book about this?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, because it is so original, I like it. I'm a big sucker for steampunk as a level of technology level, and this is a really interesting take on it. And the plot it almost reads a bit like a murder mystery. I'm not going to give too much details on that, but it reads a bit like a murder mystery, which all this combined make for a very atypical fantasy book that I definitely recommend giving a try, especially if you are like me. Like, I am into game mechanics, right? You understand? I like systems.
Yeah.
I also really like magic systems. So go figure.
I'm not gonna lie, I like the sound of it on the same level.
So it's a bit like that. It's not even a very long book. I think you could probably finish it fairly quickly.
353 pages.
There you go. It's called The Arithmetist. That's the name of a magician, wizard, however you want to call it, in that world. It's a arithmetist. So the book is also called The Arithmetist, which is interesting because it's not a real word, but of course it sounds similar to
makes for easy Google searching.
But it sounds like arithmetics, so it sounds kind of mathematical.
That's kind of
thing I like.
That's kind of where I thought this was going to be going, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like it's even without that much knowledge about all that stuff, you'll be fine basically. I know that the Arithmetist 2 is. I don't think it's out yet, but I think it's being released this year. So if you like it, there's more to come. So give it a try. If you haven't never heard of Brandon Sanderson before and you're into fantasy, under what rock have you been living?
Even I've heard of him, and I don't read fiction.
Yes. So I would definitely recommend giving some of his books a try. Of course, Mistborn is his, right? Oh God, now I'm saying things and I'm scared. Yes, the Mistborn is another really good series. I'm doing 2 picks in a row. Ha! No, it's not necessarily a second pick, but Mistborn is not a really good book. That is a magic system based around the consumption of metals.
Oh.
I'll leave it at that, I think. It's another really good book, really good setting. All of these are really original. So if you want something that's not centered around elves and dwarfs and your typical high fantasy, these books, I mean, they are high fantasy, I guess, but these books take very original takes on fantasy, so I would give that a try.
Alrighty, sounds good. Let's move on to our achievements of the week. The calm before the storm, as happens with double XP. Starting off, we have Atmahua, who got 99 construction on August 8th, and Dark Wizard, who got 99 fletching on August 7th.
All right. On August the 7th as well, there was Quest Kitty of Clan Quest's Porphia, who got 99 divination. And on August the 6th, it's 120 farming for Amos Reed. Congratulations.
Well done.
We're sticking with farming because Dark Wizard with 2 A's got 99 farming on August 5. And Shadowlad got 120 Herblore on August 4.
Nice. Good job, everybody. Good job. All right, what have we been up to? Let's start with you, Questcaping, since I know you got to disappear in 3 minutes.
Well, currently I am doing a bunch of Wilderness Slayer tasks, which is pretty nice because I treated Mandrith as my Slayer Master anyway, and the deal there isn't too different. I enjoyed the Wilderness beforehand, and I think I'm enjoying it more now, so pretty neat.
Yeah, I've been thinking I should use him and use it as an opportunity to learn Ripper Demons.
Oh yeah, for what it's worth, the amount of Slayer points you get is so much more now.
Yeah, and I need Slayer points because I have a lengthy to-do list of Slayer things that need to be done. Tool belt things, finishing a Slayer helmet. Yeah, I'm 120 Slayer. I hate the skill.
Oh.
It is what it is. Anyways, anything else Questcaping? Are you good?
All good.
Alrighty, Sirion.
Not much. Some more some more dry Croesus. I'll get a drop someday.
I don't know if talking about it helps.
You gotta,
or maybe
you
it
gotta
helps.
plead to the gods.
Maybe it helps with processing my trauma. But at this point, my collection log is empty besides the boss pet.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No way.
Which you got on kill 17.
Which I got on kill 17, and ever since it's been dry for me. Even in the group, there's not been any drops since the start of this calendar year. So, yeah. We're gonna keep trying because eventually it will happen, even though there's a chance it won't, I guess. But
yeah. Fingers crossed. All right. As for me this week on RS, Dailyscape continues, but aside from that, I have picked up the woodcutting push again, and I hit 100 million woodcutting XP.
Oh, then you're getting close.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do 120 on double XP. I think that's gonna happen this time, and I think that's just gonna be the way it is. I don't know how I feel about it, as I always feel like I have a moral dilemma about getting 120s and skills that don't actually go to 120 unless I really like the skill. But I mean, I've come this far. Why not? It's only 4 million XP away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking I might just do it. But it's an interesting discussion going for virtual 120s, I feel, and I think that's something that players have created themselves as a series of goalposts to go for now that the virtual capes are out and you can toggle on virtual leveling in terms of completing content that's not there. So after that, I've been toying with, kind of just looking through the Master Quest list and saying, maybe I'll just throw a dartboard at this list and see where it lands and go do one of these a day and see what happens with that. There's quite a few of them left to go on that, but that's just been my general kind of RuneScape thought mantra along the way. But I think that pretty much wraps this episode of Update Up, unless you have anything else.
Nope.
No, you don't. Okay. Well, as we mentioned, Tanis should be back next week. We wish him the best recovery. I'll let him fill you guys in on exactly what happened with him next week if he wants to. So fingers crossed. We wish him a very speedy recovery. But in the meantime, we'll be back next week for another episode of Update. If you want podcast episodes delivered automatically to you, subscribe. That's the best way to get it. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Pocket Cast, Amazon, Stitcher, and more. You can find the links to those at update.show/subscribe. And of course, we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANB there, where you can find the nibbles and the full video versions of the show if you like. Do give us a like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel out in terms of discoverability and just making the channel bigger and getting the podcast out to more people. So we'd greatly, greatly appreciate that. But with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANB Update. Take care.
Bye.